Are you going to listen to me, Mr. Computer? Yeah. There we go. So, still you're going to listen to me, Mr. Computer? There we go. Now you can see, apparently we are recording. Maybe it will be available for later. We shall see. We shall see. Good morning. I see you gave me the beautiful weather. Yeah? Because normally it's foggy here, yeah? Yeah? So? Totally true. So I'm very pleased. This is my first presentation in Italy. So I was supposed to be coming to do Pordenone. And then the world exploded, starting in Pordenone. So I ended up stuck at home, like we all did, yeah? So I'm really, really pleased to be able to be here. Time to go? Yeah? Good. It's okay. You haven't missed anything. No, you're okay. You're okay. See, we should be smiling and having fun and learning. This is for fun and entertainment, not just coming to university to learn from a lecturer about how to do things. We're going to have some fun. Good shirt. I approve. So, developers, hands? Yeah? Okay, I'm sorry. I'm a DBA. Yeah? I'm the one that says no. Yeah, I know. But hopefully we can have some fun. So, we're going to talk about SQL development and the new things that there are available. We're going to talk about 3 new things. So, we're not going to have time to go really deep into any of them. This is designed to open your eyes as to what is available and make sure that you know what is going on. You okay? He's the boss. We'd better let him in. Yeah. So, feel free to ask questions. Feel free to shout at me if I speak too quickly. Okay? I will try and keep slow so you can understand. Really? Okay, we'll do this. Ah, no, I know why. The screen I'm looking at looks like it should be that, but it's not. So let's try. There we go. So who am I? My name is Rob. You can find me on the internet as SQL DBA with a beard. Like I said, most important thing, here are the places you can find me. Feel free to reach out and ask me questions. Also, feel free to reach out and go, I asked you a question 2 weeks ago and you haven't answered. Okay? Because loads of stuff comes at me and sometimes it gets lost. So feel free to do that. I am an MVP for Data Platform and for Azure, which basically means Microsoft think that I talk about all of these things and they want to give me this award. And with Chrissy Lemaire, Jess Pomfret, and Claudio Silva, we wrote a book called DBA Tools in a Month of Lunches, all about the PowerShell module DBA Tools, which we literally won't talk about today, but that's cool. So what are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about the challenges that we have as developers when we're working with our data. Challenge number 1. How do we make sure that we have the right SQL instance? It's really important to make sure, make sure that we have the right version of SQL, the right cumulatively update. Maybe we have some problems in production, and that's at 2019 CU7, and we want to make sure we replicate that really easily. How can we make sure that we have a really good, simple way of getting the right version? Number 2 challenge is all about making sure that we connect to our instance. We're developers. We're writing a thing in a language, and we're going to connect to our instance, to our database. We're going to get some stuff, and we're going to bring it back. We've been doing that for years. Some of you have beards as grey as mine. You've been doing it for lots of years. We do the same thing again and again and again and again and again. But these days, we want to make an API to connect to our databases. This is the way we want to do it. How about if I show you that in like 3 minutes, we can connect and create an API, a REST API, and a GraphQL endpoint against our database, like that. Best of all, an Italian made it. There you go. And lastly, it's the cloud. Okay? And actually, I'm going to sneak in a bit of AI now, because apparently AI is cool. You know, artificial Italian. And we are going to, what we need to do is we need to be able to deploy our infrastructure into the cloud. So now we don't need to just be developers or DBAs. We need to know about networking. We need to know about private endpoints and service endpoints and NSGs and route tables and Azure functions and. And like, actually, what I want to do is I want to write magic widget in my favorite language to get stuff. So that's challenge number 3. So let's start with sqlcmd. Old name, new CLI. So sqlcmd has been around since 2005. Hugo would tell you this is actually technically since SQL 2005 CU2, because it wasn't released with the first version because it wasn't quite ready. Blah, 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 blah. But it's 20 plus years old. It's really good. Does what it does perfectly. Doesn't connect to the cloud. Doesn't work on a MacBook. Doesn't work on Ubuntu. How about if we could do that? They said, okay, we'll take this open source project, Microsoft said, called Go sqlcmd, and we will take over it and turn it into new sqlcmd. And because naming things is hard, and Microsoft are terrible at it, they decided, we'll keep the same name. That'll work. That won't be confusing at all. So we have sqlcmd ODBC version, and we have sqlcmd Go version. Okay, so we can go and see that. What's so good about it? It's written in Go, so it's new and shiny and wonderful. Actually, what that means is we can build it from one code base, and with different parameters, we can create Windows version, we can create Ubuntu version, we can create Mac version, and it will work on all of those, and it will work on different CPUs. Also, the thing it does that old sqlcmd can't do is containers. Containers are amazing. And that is what will solve our problem for how do we make sure that we have the right version. Because we can now spin up very quickly exactly the right version of SQL to be able to test our whatever it is against precisely that version and that CU. Now what I've got is demo time. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through all the slides first, because then I can check once that the recording is working and I don't have to keep flipping backwards and forwards. but it's also a cool shirt. So I also have to think now because I'm out of sync with my normal presentation. What about all of the code? We've solved how to connect to the right instance and the right version. Now we want to be writing our code. We want to create an API. And what we do all the time is we build a connection string. We pass that connection string to some connection builder. We validate that we've got a connection. We build a query. We send the query to the database. The database sends us back some results. We do something with some results. We probably close the connection. In fact, please make sure that we close the connection. Yeah, that's pretty important. Okay? And we do that. And if we've been doing that for years, what we do is we go and copy and paste that code from 1993, and then we pass it up, and then we paste it over here, and then we paste it over here, and then we paste it over here, and it always works perfectly. And then, oh no, I've got the wrong driver, and what do I do? Oh no, we're using a different language. How do we make sure this is? How do we keep our authentication and our DBAs happy? So Davide Mauri works for Microsoft now. He's the Italian. And he is one of the lead developers for this tool called Data API Builder, which we'll call DAB. And what DAB does is it makes it really easy, and we'll show you, to create an API against your database and enable you to just spin it up and start coding. Right. Literally, somebody could come to you and say, I need an API against this database. I want to be able to code in, pick your language, that can consume a REST API or a GraphQL endpoint, and I want to start working against your database. Like, great, cool. And we're done. It's as simple as that. And it works against many databases. So it'll work against SQL Server, but it'll also work against your Postgres. It'll work against other databases as well. So it's just this tool that you can, or this resource that you can sit above the top of that can enable that to happen. Best place to find out about it, as with most things Microsoft these days, the documentation is pretty good. So it's always at learnmicrosoft.com. I don't know how the translation works these days, but it used to be fairly good. And this is how it works. You have a configuration file and a relational database. And from the relational database, you throw that into your Data API Builder runtime. And that goes munch, and it says, okay, I've got that. I understand what that is. I'm now going to provide you with this runtime and either a REST API, or in fact, both a REST API endpoint and a GraphQL endpoint. And you know that if you have a good REST API, you also have a Swagger implementation to enable you to practice, test, understand. Yep, so we've got a Swagger built in here. And if you've got GraphQL, what is the Swagger equivalent? Anybody know? It's called Banana Cake Pop. Because naming things is hard. Okay? But we also have a banana cake pop available to us for our Data API Builder. And it's as cool as chips. And we'll have a look at that in a moment. Because demo time. Because still a good show. But sometimes it feels like you need to be some sort of magic sorcerer to be able to deploy things into the cloud that'll work. And I speak as somebody who spends most of my days deploying stuff into the cloud and making them work. And I honestly feel like this, right? Because it's like, and you've got to know all of these bits. Pull them in. There's this thing called Azure Developer CLI. I'm going to call it AZD. So this is not the AZ CLI that you use the Azure Cloud Shell to be able to go and connect and interact with your Azure resources. This is, how do they call it? In fact, they don't even call it that. It is literally a development tool for us that's going to enable us to create ourselves a project completely that includes all of our infrastructure definition as code and all of our code in whatever language it is, and a few simple commands that we can use to be able to spin those things up. So how do we get that? This is pretty much the same for how we get AZ CLI, for how we get Data API Builder, for how we get new SQL CMD. They all run in the same sort of fashion. Use your favorite package manager for whichever version of operating system that you use. Winget's pretty good these days. I like Winget. Winget install Microsoft.azd, Microsoft.sqlcmd, Data API Builder dot blah 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 blah. The Data API Builder one's about this long. Chocolatey, also super package management tool, enabling you to do installations of anything. This is the one that I use most because it's been around the longest and I'm old. So I have this script file that means that when I pick up a new machine or I go to a client and they give me a Windows 365 machine, I can just run this Chocolatey, install Chocolatey, and then go and install all of the versions of whatever I need. Then I have my environment to do my work set up. For AZD, they give you this bash script to fly through. For SQL CMD, for Data API Builder, you can get those via your normal package manager, so your Yum or your Debian. And even on the Mac, you just do a brew tap and a brew install. And apparently that does the same thing, but I don't use Macs, so. Luckily, only my wife uses a Mac, which means I don't have to do anything technical other than try and make it do what she wants. So once we've got our environment, here is number 4 of the 3 problems that I was going to solve for you. Number 4 problem is making sure that your box of development is all the same, so that you can use it wherever. I say use dev containers. And you're going to see me using dev containers because I'm running a Windows laptop with an ARM CPU. And sometimes stuff gets a bit screwy with that. So I am actually going to run this in a GitHub code space, which is basically a dev container hosted in the cloud on somebody else's computer. And for AZD, in your definition of your dev container, you just add in this feature, Azure Dev/AZD. And that, again, is pretty much how you add in anything additional for a dev container. What can we build with a dev container, with a AZD? They've got this site which they call Awesome AZD. And it is a library of resources available for you to pick. That says 117. I think since Ignite, there are going to be a few more than that. And you can just go and either search for them, or there's a whole load of filtering stuff you can do. Of course, .NET AI. The advantage of this is that it means that you can go, I've seen how to build a new OpenAI chat agent at Ignite, I wonder if I could do it. And you look at the documentation says go and create yourself a storage account in this OpenAI resource, and you need to have these container apps set up to connect to this key vault. And you're like, oh, really? I just wanted to play with the cool bit. I don't want to do all the rest of this. That's what AZD's for. So this time, I really will give you a demo, which means I'm going to sit down. Don't forget, this is interactive. If you have a question, shout the question. Have no problem. We will go down any rabbit hole that you would like to. Oh, let's get a mouse that works. That'll be good. Now we will lose the translation, which is slightly annoying, but as good as I can get. Oh, you started. What can you see? Good. You can see Visual Studio Code. And if we look down at the bottom here, you can see that it says, I'm opening remote. Because actually where we are connecting to is, I tried to set a default timeout of 180 minutes, and it blatantly didn't work, but there we go. So we are connected into, okay, thank you so much. Let's find the correct one. SQL DBA with a beard on GitHub, and we are in this repository, SQL Dev Demos. Okay, and the reason I tell you that is because you can literally go and pick that up. You can click this button, you can click on the code space and create your own, and you'll literally be doing what I'm doing here, because this is precisely how I am demoing it to you. First, we check that. That's going to be quite good. Sorry, person watching this. There we go. So, even though we're sat in, thank you so much for being helpful, Microsoft. Even though we are sat in our Visual Studio Code running on this machine, all of the code, all of the CPU is all running in that GitHub away from there. So it doesn't matter what version of Python I put in. It doesn't matter which packages I install. It's not going to impact anything other than this code space that I'm in right now. So super, super neat. So if we look at where we're at, I've helpfully split these into 3 demos, 01, 02, 03. So we'll start with sqlcmd. Good. We have 35 minutes or so. So shout if you would like to. We'll start it up. They are helpful. That's for 2 reasons. So that I don't run the entire file, because it'll stop here, and also to remind me to run it in here. We are going to run in Bash. Awesome. How can you install? Here you are. If you are using this on your own machine, you can see how to install. We'll make the prompt look pretty again, because actually CLS is just muscle memory to me, and in Ubuntu it gets grumpy. Normally what I would do before doing any sqlcmd is do a Docker pull of the image that I want. So I need to have a container virtualization engine available to me. So sqlcmd will work with Docker, and it will work with Podman, and it will work with systemd. The amount of fluff that you have to do to get each of those to work is variable. For Docker, pretty much going to do what it says on the tin. Hang on a minute. You said you're running in a dev container, Rob? Isn't that in a container already? Yep. But this version has hyper virtualization. So we have virtualization inside virtualization. So I can literally run Docker inside Docker here. It is super neat. It is super neat. So we could, if I just do a Docker, Even though I'm in a container, it's going to just tell me all the normal Docker things. Old people, is that big enough for you to read? Yep, good. Young people, you don't get a choice because your eyes are better than ours. To make sure that we are in the correct thing, we are using the right version, we're going to do a sqlcmd -- version. You can see that I'm running in Linux, so you know that I'm running here on version 1.8.0. That's the latest one, the last time I looked. It makes no difference if you're in a Mac or if you're on Windows, you're going to get the same thing. Beautiful thing of these new CLIs that we get to work with is that we have sqlcmd or -- help. And that actually pretty much makes me pointless for showing you stuff because you can read, okay? And you can see that actually it gives us all of the information that we need. And I really like this. I've been a proponent for a long time of saying that if we write tools for other people, for our users, make them easy to use. Give all the information. Don't hide behind blah, 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 error, exception in blah, 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 which means that you've got to go and look in some documentation to find the right thing to word it. Oh, yes, see, I'm so clever. I can tell you that it's because you missed a space at the end. Yeah? Far better, we can just go, hey, this went wrong. Take that space off the end. Our users are happy. So this does the same thing. So it says down here, one of the things it says is you can do a create. You can look at your config. Oh, here we go, look. How to create, install, query a SQL Server. You don't need me. You can read from here. But we're going to do it anyway. So I'm pretty sure that everybody keeps their database backups on an HTTPS endpoint. Yeah, absolutely. It's completely normal. I mean, it's pretty good for demos, right? But actually, maybe we want them somewhere else. sqlcmd can do this against your backup that's stored on your local machine, in a share, of course, authentication might be fun here, or in an Azure storage account. No bother, it can do that. Remember, what it does is it gets the backup, copies it into the container, then it restores it. So you got a 2 terabyte backup, you're going to need a lot of space, a lot of network, a lot of time, okay? But equally, if we're developing, we're probably not using a 2 terabyte backup, or if we are, we're going to use cloning or some other version to sort this out. So it will enable you to pick the right version of SQL. Here, I've just said, create SQL. It's just going to pick the latest version because that is the latest image that's available. But you can go back to 2017 and you can pick any CU. So if production's at this, copy the same version. Spins up an instance, restores a backup. I mean, it did it within 20 seconds, probably. And you can see that not only does it do that, it does other good things. It disabled the SA account. It downloaded the backup. It created as a new user and refreshed, rotated the password for that. And it says, right, now I'm ready. Here I've got some connections, I'm ready. It says so here, look. You can run a query. You start an interactive session. It's absolutely beautiful. So I can just do this. I'll say, right, okay, give me a keyboard that works. There we go. Run this query. I didn't do anything else. Didn't tell it what instance or what database or anything else. So, okay, let's just prove that we are sat inside AdventureWorks. So we've done something different. We said, actually, I would like to specify a particular database. Maybe our solution isn't just one instance with one database. Maybe it's one instance with 7 databases because we've got multi-cross database queries, right? So now we could build ourselves an image with those databases created, maybe we could then restore the backups into them. Doesn't matter, we can run T-SQL, so we can do anything we want to. What I'm going to do, so it makes sense, because normally I'd say I'm going to do this, and we'll go back to the slides. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a login with a particular password that I set. Don't ever do that, right? This is not production, this is for demos, this is for fun. There are better ways of doing this, but for right now, I'm going to use my sqlcmd to do the query. If I'm not using a code space, and I would like to explore my instance with Azure Data Studio, then I can just pick up. Are you going to be connected? I shall be interested. I can just pick up my connection, and I can connect straight into it, even though this database is hosted inside that container that's hosted in GitHub. Go on, you can do it. You can do it. You can do it. We'll leave it. We'll leave it there. We'll just check that that port is set. Ah, ha ha ha. Okay, so you can see the problem. Yeah, that might cause me a problem. Yes, 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 yes. Let's do a 4. Now we should be golden. There we go. Now we're connected. So I need to remember that in a minute. So we've got a database. We can do this. Now, if I wasn't in a container, I could, at the command line, I could have said sqlcmd open ADS, and it would have pinged me in straight into Azure Data Studio connected. And you're like, where's the username and password? It's all stored in our config. So we don't even need to worry about it. If you need to know it, you can go and find it. So let's come back to here. If we needed to know it, we can go, where is our terminal? There it is. We can go there. We're now set by running SQL cmd config view and passing a raw in. You can see we've got a context. This is a bit like your Kubernetes context. So we can have many of these and we can switch them through. If you just let it create them by default, it will go MS SQL 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. But you can name them, so you can go production, you can go factory, you can go warehouse, have your connection. And then it will show you what your password is. Oops, there. Does it better if you press the control button. But you can see what your password is should you need it. And also means that your password isn't particularly secure, so just be careful. It's protected with the API, but it's not perfect. So, any questions on sqlcmd? We're all happy? It's kind of cool. It's neat, easy, quick to use. Okay. So let's flip. We've now watched the slides about Data API Builder. We want to create ourselves a REST API. Maybe we want to use some sort of database called AdventureWorks because we've got one here. Okay, so now we're going to flip ourselves into some PowerShell. I'm going to stay in Bash because why not? I'm going to create myself a little prompt. So now you can see how to create a prompt. You can say anything you want. And we'll make sure we're in the right path. Is it going to be that one? Nope, it's going to be that one. There we go. We'll do a little bit of work. Make sure that we have not already got something from me testing it earlier. Well, apparently not. Good. This is how we would install our DAB. So we're going to be .NET Tool installing. So I might have said that it was package management, but this one's a .NET Tool. And we would do that. We don't want to do it, though. We don't want to do it. Thank you. So it would do an installation and sqlcmd -- version. Hey, DAB, that's -- version. Except that for some reason they choose a version number like that. Don't ask me why. It's ridiculous. But there we go. CLS, right. Okay, so we needed a user with a simple password. What we're going to need to do here is update that to be 1434, because otherwise, Right, so we're going to connect to our database. So we need a connection string. Here, in a container, it's pretty simple. We're just going to use SQL auth. If you're going to start building this, you're going to start doing it like this, because this is your development config. I am not going to talk about how you set up authentication with multi-factor authentication with Azure and static web apps and all of the rest of it. You can go and read about that. It's not quite as simple as this, but it works. It works. So we're going to create ourselves a connection string, and we'll do that. Go, right, OK. I'm generating the default config file, which will look like this. So this is what it's done. Created some JSON, got a connection string, set us up. Here is our path to our REST API. Here is our path to our GraphQL endpoints. Hey, we can play with cores. That's a lot of fun. Choose our provider. We're in development mode. And then entities. Okay. So, as you notice, it says a suggestion. Use DAB, add entity name and some options to be able to do this. So that's really cool. Let's have a look at what it looks like just by default. We'll do a DAB start. Ta-da! Your application is running. We've just created a REST API and a GraphQL and a Swagger and a Banana Cake Pop endpoint application against our database. Poof, easy. That's super cool. Oh yeah, come on, prove it, Rob. Okay, let me prove it. We'll open that. You can see I've got a connection's happened, and there we go. There's my REST API endpoint, and it's healthy. Good? I mean, good, but let's suppose I wanted to connect, have a look at the product that's in my database. It's a product ID of 757. Oh, hang on a minute. We haven't got any entities. So it says what you can do is you can just keep writing dab, add, entity, blah, dab, add, entity, blah, dab, add, entity, blah. You've got a big database. That's going to take you some time. Now, it's an option. Maybe some teams will choose to do that and source control this list of files. That's one way of doing it. However, Davide doesn't like doing stuff like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a look at this file that he's created. Oh, no, we're not. We need to stop dab first, Rob. We're going to have a look at this file that he's created, which is available in my GitHub and in Davide's and the dab. We're going to open that. Now, I could run it in Visual Studio Code, but seeing as I'm here, I'm going to run it against this database. And what it's going to do is it's going to have a look at the database, grab the schema, it's going to get all of the tables, find all the relationships, and create me dynamically the JSON to be able to put into that file quicker than I can explain what it's done. Right? Yeah, wow. It's like, poof. Like, told you, Italians, they're amazing. So we come down to here, and we grab this file that's created. I'm going to take it from entities. And because I've done this many times, I am not going to copy the last curly brace. Okay, so we'll copy that with a Control-C, and I'm going to come back to my dab config, and here I've got my entities. And then, tried to fool me. I'm going to delete that just to make it easy. Paste it in, and I'm going to do Alt-Shift-F, because I'm in Visual Studio Code, and that will dynamically format it, and it will also tell me if I've got it wrong, because I can look at the bottom. If I had got it wrong, it would have been like that. So I'm quite happy that I managed to do it. So save that. Now I've created all of this. What do they look like? Let's look at one of these. Close you out. There you go. So you've got a product model. It's telling you, oh no, in fact, let's go to there. Let's come up there. Product model, product description. Where do I get this from? Here it's from a table, could be from a view. Yes, it's possible to use store procedures as well. Permissions. Right now, we're just saying, yeah, if you can connect to the database, you can read, okay? Because Our authentication is controlled from our connection string. Might not always be what we want, because what we might have is different roles for admin, for super user, for reader, for writer, for consumer, for whatever, management. So we might have different things. You can set those up with permissions at each source level in your entity. And then we need to know, it's a relational database. What do we connect to? So we have an understanding of what our foreign keys are in our database, just dynamically created. And remember, I just ran one T-SQL script. It poof, gave me all of this. You can choose which one you wish to do. You might do a bit of both. You might do this first and then go back and see what's available later. So once you've got that all done, we're going to come into here. We'll clear screen that. We'll go away from that one. And now we'll just do a dab, start again. And this time, we're going to use this new file, or updated file that we've got. And you'll see there was a lot more stuff that it created. It just created all of these entities for us. And now we're still running the same. So we can come back to here. Let's go and have a look at product ID 757. Ta-da! Product ID 757 is a Road 450 red bicycle that cost a mere 884 units. I don't know, some things, yeah. And it's got a thumbnail. So REST API, we've got a Swagger. We can come into here. We could go this. So we were on product, get product by ID. Try it out, okay. Let me put in a product ID number, 750, let's try 758. I got no idea what this might do. Execute. Holy moly. Like, we had one dab installation and a connection string. We ran a T-SQL script to generate some JSON for us, which we put in our config file, and we did dab start. Boom. We've got a REST API we can play with. So that's cool. Okay, what about GraphQL? Now, honestly, I don't know as much about GraphQL. Once you open it up, you get this. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Where do we go? Ooh, browse schema. There we go. Is that what I want? Now we're starting to see that we've got some things. And let's go to your notes, Rob. We want this query. So let me see. Every time I do this, it comes up sometimes something different. Oh, totally. That's not the window I was wanting. No, that is the window I've been given. So why are we operation? There we go. That's what I wanted to see. Good. So I am going to pick here. I've got no operations. I'm going to give a new query. I'm going to call it PR. Aha, that's better. So we'll go for a product by PK, and then we need to update it. So we need to give it this. So we're going to pass in the customer ID variable, and it's going to be that sort of int. It's going to go there. And we are going to, for customer by PK, we're going to grab this customer ID and pass in that variable again. So that's going to go there. And then we need to put into here our graph variables. Nah, do they go in that one? No red lines. So with a bit of luck, if I run that, oh, look at this. Errors. Excellent. What have we got? Product by six subfields. Did you mean product by PK? Oh, must have a selection of them. Did I forget to do some stuff? Yes. So let's go for a name and a list price and a product ID. There we go. That's because That's because you've done products when you meant to do customer, Rob. I'm a fool. Let me fix that. We'll have one go at fixing that. Query PR, customer ID. So we want customer by customer ID, not that one. There we go. And now we can pick all of that information and grab that one. There we go. I should read my own notes properly, and then life will be much better. There we go. Now if I run, there we are, look at that. So now I've done some GraphQL. I've passed in my query. You can start doing all of your mutations and the rest of the things you get, and you're going to get back your response, so you can now start to build your application. Because I'm a PowerShell nerd, I'm always going to do something like this. Oh, I thought I had, I've left the GraphQL one at home. Let me just grab a, boof. It's just a REST API query with PowerShell, so that's neat. So, super simple, super quick, better if you know a bit more GraphQL. But you can see that you can just point it at a database and create stuff, so that's cool. Any questions? Nobody going to ask me how to implement it? Because it's all very well having it here. Where are we putting this? Static web app in Azure is what we're going to use. So you're going to run a static web app that's going to do the front end, that's going to connect through using Data API Builder to connect through probably to your Azure SQL Database. And it's all built in there. You are going to have fun with it. You've got the squeaky chair, it's okay. You are going to have fun with the authentication, but that's how you can do it. Good. Okay, so we have, just under 15 minutes. So how about, let's do some AI. Yeah, we want to do some AI. So let's go and look at some AZD. So we'll pick our demos here. So AZD. AZD is going to create us a cool thing in Azure without us having to worry about how to build it, or enabling us to worry how to build it, depending on what we need. But I could give this project to my developers and say, here you go, new developer. I would like you to start work. To start work, you are going to need all of this infrastructure. So let's have a look at the sort of infrastructure that we've got. We're going to look at this README, Control K and a V. And you're not going to give me Control K and a V. Thank you. And you'll give me a preview. Okay, so we're going to have a retail, retrieval augmented Copilot with Azure AI Studio and Prompty. Let's see, what are we going to build? There we go. We're going to build one of these. It's got some managed identities, it's got some container apps, it's got OpenAI service, it's got AI search. We're going to use Cosmos DB and grab a response. You're all experts in all of those technologies? Yeah? No. Nobody's an expert in all of those, right? So if you joined my company and I said, I want you to start working on it, and here it is, what are we going to have? We're going to have a new developer tick sheet, yeah? It's going to have 20 pages of things to do. They're not going to have all the permissions to do all the things, so they're going to come and ask you, how do I install that? I can't create one of these. What do I do for this? Where is that? Yeah? We've all played that game. Yeah? New person joins, we've got all of this stuff. And we're building something new and cool and funky, so we've got all of these things to work with. AZD enables us to do this. I'm going to log in. Okay, and do an AZD login. I put this in so that I can get some source control stuff going on here. I'm going to navigate to this path. I would make a directory. I'd go to the directory. And then I would run this. AZD init, give it a template and a name. And that's going to go firing off to this. Oh, of course we didn't. Contoso chat. There we go. This place here. This is what we used. View it in GitHub. It's going to go and clone this directory into our place, and we have everything here ready. Of course, because they changed everything for Ignite, some things got a bit funny, which is why I had to go through and change just a couple of bits in the bicep. Once we've done that, we can just do an AZD provision. Now, I'm going to start that running. Okay, I'm not going to start that running because I'm in PowerShell, because we didn't do that. Still in PowerShell, Rob, because here we go. In Bash, yes, good. Go on, you can do it. Thank you. CD into Parma, there we go. I'm going to do this AZD provision, thank you. And normally when I start doing that, thank you so much, 10 minutes. Normally, when we first do this, it's going to come up and say, hey, I can see you're connected. Which subscription do you want? And you go, this one. And you go, hey, I can see you want this subscription. Which region do you want? And you can scroll through all of the regions. And what it'll do over here, oops, let's not do an A, let's do an 1. So we're in Parma. That's our the directory that we've chosen to put our AZD stuff in. It's going to create us, oh look, see, they've created you a dev container to work with as well. It creates you a .azure folder. And inside the .azure folder, it is going to create you, for your environment, these things. This is my environment name. I hope that makes sense to some people. And we've got an environment file and a config. So because I'd already run this, it's got a lot of this stuff has already been filled in. Normally, the only thing that you're going to have in here is going to be, interesting. Somewhere in here we've got our subscription ID. There we go. So normally you just have your subscription ID and the location, and that would be all that it would have in here when it started. And then it's going to go and deploy your infrastructure. You'll notice I can run this as many times as I like. This is infrastructure as code done the correct way, because I didn't find any new changes, so it's not done anything. Once we've deployed our infrastructure, we're going to end up with something that looks like this. This is our deployment. Here would be our deployment. And now we can go to our resource group. Let's go to this one. It's going to pick the name that you've given to your directory. And holy moly, look at this. I love this. This is so cool. I particularly hate how little information you can see, because really this is the only bit we're interested in. But you can see I've got all of these different Azure resources already created, already connected, all with the right authentication, completely done. Where is that sorted out? Here. This infra directory has all of that. Now, you can not care at all, or you can totally get involved. Right now, this works. A couple of little changes, but it worked. It deployed our infrastructure. Maybe we're going to say, I want to keep these things in this location, these things in that location. Then you're going to dive into your bicep and you're going to start understanding how that works. If you're more interested in coding the thing, then you leave that completely to be, and you just concentrate on this folder where all of your code is. Yeah? And you can go through and do it. Once you've finished with your code, you can just say, actually, I'd like to provision my code. AZD provision. Remember, new developer, normally it's How do I deploy my code? Oh, right, so you need to get these connection strings for your environment and store them into this key vault so that we can do this and plug it into the blah, 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 blah. And they're like, it doesn't work, and I don't have permissions. And here, boom. It's going to come up with an error, one of the Python errors somewhere, because it doesn't like how they're comparing dates. But it's just deploying all of my stuff, all ready for me, converting everything in, doing my provision. There was nothing to change, but it's okay. You can see that is about how long it would take, which means that I can then go and look at let's do it this way around. Let's come into here, let's find my container app. My container app is here. So I've got my container app that is created. Come on phone, you can do it. We've got a URL. Your Azure Container Apps is live, excellent. I know that what I need to do is do a /docs on the end of here. And that's what it says. Add docs. Yes, we've added docs. And, oh. Have you not? Two hours ago, I had a Swagger thing there. But not now. Ace. Thank you so much. Let's just, for the sheer fun of the game, let's see what we get. I'll prove it, because I should have, oh no, that's because no such host is known. It's because you're in a different one, okay. Okay, let's try that then, and let's grab this here. Oh, that's a bit annoying, because it would have been some cool AI to show you. Can I get this right? Control, let's come back to there. How much of this did I paste? That much. There. So even though it's not coming up, it's time. Even though it's not coming up, you can see that what we've just done is connects to our endpoint, and it's going to say, yeah, we haven't got it running. But AZD, it is actually amazing. That hasn't. Oh, that might have been the reason why, you know, because I didn't do the deploy. I provisioned twice, didn't I? Nobody spotted that for me. You're all used to it. I provisioned twice. So I said because I was expecting an error from the requirements and it never came through. So it's going to quickly deploy, and that might mean that if we have enough time, we can do this. My name is Rob. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you for having me in Italy. If you have any questions, feel free to get in touch. Let's just see if... No, we still haven't quite got ourselves up and running. No, it's still deploying, but we would get there. All right, thank you very much. Still deploying. How annoying. I'm gonna mute this and turn the